It is property tax season in Wyoming and some people are not happy about it. But before we dive into why, we are going to be doing part of today's video fireside. And why is that? Well, it is currently October 27th and I think the temperature outside is around 22 or 23 degrees out. We may not even get above 30 today. So we're gonna stay warm and cozy as we talk about property taxes. As I mentioned earlier, it's property tax season in Wyoming. Now that folks are receiving their property tax bills in the mail, I can assure you our state representatives are getting an earful from residents. Some folks have seen their bills double or even triple over the last 2 years in Wyoming. And the Wyoming State Legislature is scrambling to find ways to cool the tempers of upset residents over this property tax issue.
My property, you didn't win in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Property taxes have been a hot button issue in the Cowboy State for more than a year now. And up until the pandemic, Wyoming remained relatively under the radar when it came to population booms and migration. It just kind of steadily rose over time. But COVID changed everything. So if you're thinking about moving to the Casper, Wyoming area, stick around because you're going to not want to miss this video where I dive into the good and the bad of property taxes in Casper, Wyoming. With the pandemic, Wyoming saw droves of new residents moving in from out of state, pushing up housing values to levels never seen before. The increase in housing values created a gold mine for assessors to reassess properties and increase property taxes. This rapid increase in property taxes left homeowners feeling cheated and frustrated, especially those that have lived here for years, right? And so, as I mentioned before, with Wyoming not being a fan of high taxes, our lawmakers are having their feet held to the fire to find a solution to this. Overall, Wyoming has some of the lowest property taxes in the entire US. Wyoming actually ranks number 10 for the lowest property taxes. Our property tax rate is around 0.55%. which again is still relatively low when you look at it, across the board. So with that said though, I'm going to be taking you to my whiteboard because we're going to actually look at how property taxes are calculated in Wyoming to give you a better understanding of what that means for you. Welcome to class. All right, so this is my favorite whiteboard. I love to whiteboard. I use this whiteboard to brainstorm, to keep track of my real estate transactions. I will use it to write down important dates. I use this whiteboard a lot. I just find it very helpful for me to see everything visually besides just looking at my phone on either my calendar or my notes app. I just really like being able to see this every day to know this is what I've got going on. But today, I have wiped it clean so we can go over property taxes. Your favorite, right? Okay, so Wyoming property taxes. What are we dealing with here? The first thing that you need to know about Wyoming property taxes is that Wyoming is an ad valorem property tax state, which means according to value. Why is this important? This is important because there is one state in the US that is not an ad valorem property tax state, and that is California. California is an acquisition property tax state. And what California does is when you purchase a property, you are going to get charged 1% of that purchase price for your property taxes. And from there on out, the state has a 2% cap on how they can raise your property taxes. So they can never raise it more than 2% per year from that original purchase price tax assessment. That's Prop 13 in California that a lot of homeowners rely upon to keep their property taxes low especially those that bought, 20, 30 years ago when their home was half as much as what it's probably worth now, maybe even less than that. So that's why it's important to know what ad valorem is versus acquisition. Again, California is the only state in the U.S. that has that. Every other state is going to be ad valorem. So this is probably what you're accustomed to already. We also want to know what the mill levy is. A mill levy is the tax rate that's applied to the assessed value per $1,000 assessed. Okay? And it's important too that we differentiate between the assessed value and the appraised value, because those are going to be two different things. So, what does that look like in real life? Let's go over this example. Let's say we have a building, a structure, a home, and the county has appraised it for $150,000. Per the Wyoming state statutes, the assessment rate that Wyoming charges is 9.5% of your appraised value. So to get our property tax assessed value, we're going to take the appraised value of $150,000, multiply it by 9.5%, and that's going to give us our assessed value of $14,250. We're not done yet though, because you also have the land value. So the land, let's say the land is appraised at $50,000. Again, we're going to apply the 9.5% assessment rate that the state allows. That's going to give us $4,750 for the assessed value. You combine the two, you have $19,000 in your assessed value. But you have to then multiply that by the mill levy rate. And the mill levy rate in Casper is $72.89. So you're going to multiply it by $72.89. And that's going to give you a really big number. But don't worry, we're not done with it yet. So that's going to give you $1,384,910. But you're going to divide that number by 1,000 because the mill levy is per 1,000 assessed, okay? So you're going to divide this by 1,000, and that is going to give you your annual property tax bill of $1,384.91. All right, back to the fire where it's warm. So the bad news is that now that I've gone over how property taxes are calculated, I'm sure you can easily see how those property tax bills can escalate as home values rise. But are you ready for some good news? Wyoming does currently have several programs already available to help homeowners with their property taxes. The first program is the Veterans Property Tax Exemption, which can reduce your property taxes by $3,000 if you meet certain criteria. We also have the Property Tax Refund Program, which refunds a portion of your property tax bill if you also meet certain criteria. Now, while these programs help, not everyone can qualify, and with inflation, everyone is feeling the squeeze. So as a result, many constituents, again, calling their legislators, they were able to get more than 20 proposals brought to the Wyoming State Legislature to review for helping to provide relief for property taxes. Of those 20 proposals, 3 survived. So the first one that we have is HB 099, which was passed earlier this year, which expanded the property tax refund program, allowing more individuals to qualify. This expansion bumped eligibility to 125% of the median household income allowed for residential homeowners to receive up to 75% of a property tax refund. The second proposal that we have is Joint Resolution 3, which was passed by the Wyoming House and Senate, and it will be brought forth to Wyoming voters in 2024. And this will create a state constitutional amendment that would separate our residential property taxes from other property classes that it's currently lumped in together with. So separating the residential property tax would allow lawmakers to change that rate specifically for residential instead of it being all lumped together. And this constitutional amendment would actually pave the way for additional tax relief in the future. Now, the third proposal is looking into an acquisition property tax model, kind of like we talked about earlier. The legislature earlier this year passed a legislation amount of $50,000 to commission a study detailing what it would take to convert Wyoming to an acquisition-based property tax system. And this study estimated that going to an acquisition-based model would cost the state about $1.7 billion in tax revenue over the span of a decade. If lawmakers decide to move forward, they'd first have to pass the constitutional amendment separating out the residential tax rate, right, as well as adding additional lengthy revisions to current state law. This is mainly due to the fact that Wyoming is currently a non-disclosure state, which means that the sales price of a property is not made public. In order to move to an acquisition-based property tax system, that would have to change. So should lawmakers move forward with a constitutional amendment and the voters approve, the earliest an acquisition-based property tax system may appear in Wyoming would be sometime in 2026. So hopefully that was helpful for you, and you can take away from this video that Wyoming residents and lawmakers are serious about keeping property taxes low. We won't know until later in 2024 where our property taxes are headed, but hopefully they'll be headed down in the right direction. I hope you found this video helpful and not too far into the weeds. I just wanted to give you an overview of property taxes in Wyoming. And as always, if you are looking to relocate to beautiful Casper, Wyoming, I would love to help you make your next move. So please don't hesitate to call, text, or email me. I'm here for you, and we will see you in the next one.